this presentation tonight may very well save your life, or someone you love. And that someone may very well be me. Now, so you know, tonight's exhibition is unique and will be quite different, in fact. Not as humorous, not full of huzzas, but incredible nonetheless. You see, any of you belong to the Hunters Guild? Some of you? Splendid. We've actually been invited tonight to do this exhibition for you in behalf of the Hunters Guild. You see, recently there have been a number of attacks on the outskirts of town with some very unique and mythical creatures. Now, many of us here at the Glass House, myself included, claim ancestry from the Sami tribe. If you know Benjamin, he looks like me, slightly plumper, slightly redder beard. He is my brother, and he adheres quite religiously to the beliefs of the Sami tribes of the Nordic countries of Norway, Finland, Denmark, and Sweden. That's our ancestry. And very much a tribe in the same sense that you're familiar with Native American tribes. They're actually recognized as their own independent country and their own independent culture with their own unique governments. Now, unique to the Sami tribe is some of the beliefs in the creatures that you'll see here tonight. Many of you have heard of shapeshifters in the village. I have been accused of being a shapeshifter. King Otis has been accused of being a shapeshifter, if you know King Otis. But we do have several shapeshifters that live here in the Glass House. We also have a werewolf, and if you looked at the moon tonight, that might give you a bit of pause. Pause, no pun intended. In truth, very excited here tonight because it seems odd that you have this beautiful Victorian village and a beautiful Victorian glass house full of a big safari man and animals. Well, tonight, for the first time, you will actually get to hear why. You're a very unique group in that you get to hear the origin story of some of those characters and citizens of Evermore that you may have seen, that you may have thought, I saw that bird show once, there's nothing to it. Well, there's a whole lot more to it and a lot more forthcoming as you learn more about the Sami tribe and the shifters here in Evermore. Now, we do have some incredible specimens that we show you, and I myself am the one who go out into the world and find many of these specimens, both living and dead, footprints, skeletons, what have you. Hence the expedition attire with King Otis. Now, as such, we don't have as many rules as we do with the animal show, other than should you need to leave, go through those doors, and that's it. Now, this will be a wonderful presentation for you, very unique. This is the only second time we've done it, so do forgive us if it's not as fun and exciting as you're used to, because we're really trying to help you out, especially those of you in the Hunters Guild, to keep you safe out there in Evermore, as there are many creatures thought to be mythological that can, when handled inappropriately, be quite deadly to you. So, this presentation tonight may very well save your life, or someone you love. And that someone may very well be me. So I would encourage you to listen for all of our sakes. Am I turning it over to you or Ben?
Yeah, we're moving the table.
Moving the table. It's like The Box, if you've seen my show before.
How many have seen Master David?
Huzzah!
His boxmanship skills are legendary in the town of Evermore, if you've ever seen them.
I have witnessed them.
They are truly legendary.
The highlight of your experience in Evermore, truly.
Well, welcome everybody. We're going to share a few species with you tonight that are most pertinent. We've been talking a lot with the Blackhearts, with our hunters, to know. We just want to make sure nobody gets eaten. And if there's opportunities for positive magic as well, to make you aware of that. So we're going to be sharing some of these specimens that have been brought to us or that we found on expedition. Now, before we do, how many of you have been to Evermore before? How many of you have been many times? Okay. This building will always be safe. All of us here who come here and spend our time here have rescued animals that have magical properties that are very good magic. So if you are ever worried in the town, you are safe here. Some of these animals, of course, we don't keep here, and some of these might be a little scary in what they are and what they do. Our first one, though, is a beautiful species. How many of you have heard of a phoenix? Not the town in Arizona, the bird. Now, stories get passed down and embellished. You've most likely heard European stories, Greek or Roman stories. Actually, phoenixes originate from Egypt. Now, they were referred to originally as the Bennu bird, B-E-N-N-U, the Bennu bird, the phoenix of Heliopolis. And they were special. It wasn't just a magical bird. They had much more to it. Are you familiar a little bit with Egyptian history and Egyptian death rituals? Okay. You know how a lot of people have a belief in a soul or a spirit. Egyptians believed you had 7 parts of a spirit. One of them was your ba, which was represented in art as a falcon's body like this, but with your head. And when you died and were in your tomb, it would come and go. And it was a personification of you. Okay, so you need to understand that the sun god Ra, the Egyptians believed that the phoenix was his ba, specifically. Was the ba of the sun god Ra. I know it sounds like a terrible rhyme, the ba of the sun god Ra, but that was the belief as they witnessed the phoenix out in their fields. Now, we have phoenixes in many countries, but Jessica went to Egypt and witnessed them in the fields. And where did you find them most often?
I found them mostly in onion patches. I don't know why. Maybe they like crying. They were in the onions.
And onions are very important to Egyptian diet, part of the history. One of the most important blessings when you die is, may your afterlife be filled with bread, beer, and onions.
Huzzah!
Now, Leah, in our town, has found phoenix feathers. Nobody that I have found, no guild, and none of us have ever witnessed a phoenix in our town. These are phoenix feathers, but these are juvenile. See how they're banded? And they're not very bright. The older a phoenix gets, the feathers become flame-colored, beautiful and bright. And then, when they die and are reborn from ashes, their new juvenile feathers look like this. But Leah, do you want to tell them we have some unusual circumstances worth noting about where and how these were found?
So, Evermore has the big side walkway.
Circular walkway, big.
Circle. Go walked it several times, I'm sure. I have always found them outside of that circle, never on the center of Evermore, but they've always been on the outside, which is very odd. So if you guys do happen to find any of these feathers, bring them to us. Bring them to the dark heart. You can keep them. We just want to know where you found them at.
So please, if you find one, just let us know where you found them. You're welcome to keep them. The phoenix feathers are imbued with magic, and it is good magic. It is light magic, but just let us know. Now, birds. Of course, we love birds here at the Glass House. How many of you have seen a turkey vulture before? Okay, they look huge, don't they? 6-foot wingspan, they're enormous. Here's a skull of a turkey vulture. Now, this is just for a size reference, because we're talking about animals. Anytime you see any skull of any animal, you have to imagine in your head it fleshed out with muscle and skin and tissue. Feathers, in the case of birds, much larger. So that's a bird with a 6-foot wingspan. This is the skull of a condor, a bird with a 9 to 12-foot wingspan. And yet the skull doesn't look that big. You've got to be lightweight if you can fly, right? Again, I'm just sharing these for size references as we build up. This is the skull of a golden eagle, which is the most widespread eagle in the world. They live in almost every country of the world. Very powerful hunters with 1,200 pounds of crushing grip per square inch. That's a bird with a 7-foot wingspan. These are all very large birds. Now compare that to a bird that both our knights and our blackhearts have witnessed flying over the town, which is, can you share that one, is the thunderbird. Sort of a combination between an eagle and a condor with a 22-foot wingspan. It's a very large bird. That's a thunderbird, or a pteratornis. So this is one of the birds that you should be aware of. We have not seen any attacks by this bird, but a bird that large, you need to be cautious of. Now, how many of you have heard of a griffin? Okay, griffins are normally described as being part lion, part eagle. Well, they're not a hybrid between the two. They're a magical creature. And our blackhearts who have witnessed them have told us their build is much more like a cougar than a lion. Their colors and appearance are very lion-like, but their build is much more like a cougar. Now, you've seen a bird with a 22-foot wingspan. This is an older poorly preserved, but this is a Griffin Skull. And to compare that, here's a regular lion skull. And here's a regular tiger skull. I've never seen a lion or a tiger roaming the streets of Evermore, but that gives you a comparison, and you can see, no, they're not built exactly like a cross between a lion and an eagle. There's quite a bit of size difference. Now, griffins, as a species and in their intention, are considered to be very good creatures that don't harm people. But, because they're magical, certain things you have to be aware of. For example, their front legs or front paws appear like eagle legs. So they have scales, they have claws like an eagle. The inner claws are bigger, but very eagle-like, just giant. Why you need to know this is these front claws are used in dark magic, which is not good. So this is a good sign for you ahead of time. If you wander the town or see somebody coming in from out of the town and they are wearing the front claw of a griffin or using it in a potion or a spell, you can ask them, be like, hey, is that a griffin claw you've got there? Why, yes, it is. Don't trust them then. You know that is somebody who's working with dark magic. You best avoid them or not trust the spells they're casting. Now, the rear paws of a griffin are built like a lion and have claws like you would expect from a large cat. Somebody who is wearing these or using these in a potion, that is a light magic object and is considered to be safe and not bad, and it's something you can trust. Okay, where are we at? Dragons. Yeah. Yes, so you've heard of dragons. Who's heard of wyverns? Okay. Dragons are what you would expect. They have wings, they have arms, they have legs, they're huge, they wander, and they have tremendous range. Wyverns have legs, and their wings are their arms, and they're much smaller. The teeth of dragons are very post-like. They're strong, they're round, they can handle biting bone with no problem, and they're enormous. Wyvern teeth are much shorter, and they're narrow, and they're built like steak knives. They're built for cutting and slicing. They're not built for, if they bit bone, they would break. So a wyvern is even though they're large, is a much more delicate animal. Now, we don't kill dragons, but we have a team right now in Romania that has been looking for, in caves, the remains of different dragons so that we can share and study them. So a few of the bones that have been brought back so far, this is the scapula, or the shoulder blade of a dragon that's been brought out of Romania. By comparison, here's the shoulder blade of a lion, the king of the beast. So, you know, lions are powerful hunters, but if you're also flying, you need a very different type of shoulder blade. You can see just how enormous that is. Now, I've also, from one of the caves, recovered ribs. I want to share those. They're very broad. If you're going, any animal that flies has a broad chest cavity because they have to pump more oxygen as they're flying. These bones are the neck bones of a very old individual. They're calcified. But our team has written to us, and in the next week or so, they have found a skull. They're finishing excavating from one of the caves. So we'll also have a large skull to be able to share with you from one of these dragons from Romania. The claws also are very large. But claw is any animal that has a true claw. Take a look at this griffin claw. You see how it's translucent? The claw itself is made out of keratin. That's the same material as your fingernails. It grows over the bone core. So what you're looking at is the bone core of a very old dragon. The claw itself would have grown over that and would have been much longer. So dragons are enormous, especially when you compare that to, say, griffin claws. Now, yeah, that's a big claw. But imagine a whole hand of those. It's an enormous animal. Now, a couple of animals that we wanted to make you aware of that the Black Hearts told us to make sure you're aware of. If you're used to bats, here's the size of a regular bat. The bats we normally have in Evermore are this big and eat 300 to 400 mosquitoes a night, and we love them. But our Blackheart hunters have told us that they have been finding giant vampire bats. And they even brought us a skull. They said it's about the size of a dog or a wolverine. But the scary thing about these vampire bats is they can fly, but they don't hunt from the sky. They're very adapted to running around on the ground, and apparently have been lying, because our hunters go off the beaten path out in the forest, and there have been attacks. Nobody's been seriously harmed or killed, but the Blackhearts tonight asked us to warn you of these creatures. So if you're near bushes, make sure you're always aware of what's around you so that one of these giant vampire bats doesn't get you. We don't know much about them yet, but we're still learning. Another thing that happened the other day is a set of tracks were found. How many of you have been on the train? Have you been on the train? You know the tunnel it goes through? It's a very cool place in the daytime in this hot summer temperatures. And our Blackheart hunters found some tracks, and it turns out an animal that we thought was no longer here, that was here during Aurora, they have found snowcats. We don't know if these came through the portal, but these started appearing this past January. Very large, dangerous cats. And because a set of trackways, we had, Jessica went and actually poured a cast with plaster. It's still drying, but we'll share that with you in the next few days. But we want to make sure that you are aware that in addition to giant vampire bats, that there is at least one, if not more, of these snow cats. The hunters told us that they look like a snow leopard, that they're gray with spots. And so it's something that can blend into the shadows quite easily. So these are a few of the animals that we're dealing with. We have many more to share with you, but we want to just give you a quick overview and not go in too much depth. We hope this is helpful. And again, please, if you find any of these anywhere in the town, bring it here or to the Blackhearts. Let us know where you found it, and then feel free to keep it. But thank you all so much for coming, and you're welcome to look at any of these items up close if you want as well. Thank you so much.